I'm quite drawn to this Flemish screen because of all the detail in it. One of the things I find most interesting about it is the similarities to chased silver when it's gilt, and this piece has a lot of relief in it. I love the grain in the rosewood table because it's very similar to the Japanese patterns of water, and just the detail in the wood grain is also similar to the way I chase silver in my work. I'm really inspired by the flowing lines in the clouds on these Ming vases. They're really simple lines and they remind me of water.
The National Trust was approached by the Worshipful Company of Goldsmiths with the concept for a project called Studio Silver Today, whereby a contemporary silversmith would come and work at a National Trust property and create an item inspired by that property. The Ickworth silver collection is one of the two most important collections of silver within the National Trust, and its significance lies not only in the makers who are represented here, but also in the sheer quantity of silver that still survives within the collection. The collection was amassed by successive generations of the Harvey family, beginning with the first Earl of Bristol at the end of the 17th century, and we have several examples of things that he collected here. His grandson, the second Earl, commissioned some truly remarkable pieces, and one of my particular favourites is the soup tureen, made by the outstanding silversmith Frederick Candler in 1752, and it's a remarkable example of Rococo silversmithing.
Well, welcome to Goldsmiths Hall. I'm Rosemary Ransom-Wallace and I'm curator of the collections here. We have some 8,000 items in the collection. It's the largest private collection in the country, and it belongs to the Worshipful Company of Goldsmiths. The term goldsmith describes the person, the craftsman, who literally smiths the precious metals, silver and gold. Nowadays, of course, we're supporting the craft of silversmiths and jewellers. One of the greatest treasures in the company's collection was given by this remarkable man, Sir Martin Bowes. He was Prime Warden of the company, that's the head of the company for 1 year, in the year that Queen Elizabeth I was crowned. He acted in his capacity of Lord Mayor as well, as butler to the Queen at her coronation banquet in the Palace of Westminster. And as his perquisite, he received a beautiful cup, which he then gave to us in 1561. It is a masterpiece of Elizabethan silversmithing, using the traditional silversmithing techniques of chasing and engraving. And what is remarkable is that these techniques are still used today, and we're now in a second Elizabethan age of craft skill and design. I've started this initiative with the National Trust, where we place an artist, craftsman, silversmith in residence for the period that the house is open, in a workshop situation, making a piece that the public can win, very simply. So who wouldn't want to win a piece by Miriam Hanid?
Sometimes people can think of a silversmith as having a white beard and living in a small sort of cave where they produce these things, but really it's become something that's very integrated into modern life. The thing I love about working with silver is that it's like a living, breathing material to me. It changes when it's exposed to air, and it has certain subtleties about it that working with paints and paper doesn't, for example. So it's not just a texture or pattern that I'm putting on silver, it's more a feeling or a subtlety of emotion. So my main inspiration comes from waves and rivulets in water, which for me is a metaphor for the current of love which flows through all human beings. So I study rivulets and the surf in the sea. I take photographs, draw them, and then translate those drawings into the designs for chasing and engraving. I love how the waves sort of roll and the tide just comes in and goes out, and that kind of rolling motion of the sea, that really plays an important part in the design of my work. My main two techniques are chasing and engraving. In engraving there's the possibility of creating a lot of detail in a small area, which makes a small area of silver very three-dimensional, and chasing is done with a hammer and punch.
Right, first of all we need to visit the sampling department. This is obviously where we usually stop first to make sure your work's up to standard. So we'll do your work on X-ray today, I think, because it's the quickest method. They're very exacting standards. They're looking for all known metals in the manufacture of silverware and goldware, obviously. It's just a matter of placing the article on the surface, closing the lid, and we end up with this series of peaks, as you can see. I can see your piece is likely to be silver, so exactly what we've got, a large peak of silver and just a tiny peak of copper. Way above the standard that you submitted them at, which was 95.8 Britannia standard, so perfectly okay. We can go ahead now and have this all marked. So we're off to the hand marking department now, and we'll see Robert, one of my ex-apprentices. He's going to mark your goods for you. The most important part of hallmarking is tooling up, obviously. If you have a round article and you use a flat tool, you're obviously going to flatten the area off. So Robert needs to actually literally look for a tool to fit the different shapes of your articles, of which we have thousands around us, as you can see. We've got a couple of engineers producing these tools all the time for new wares in shapes and sizes. Once he's sorted out the correct tool for your vase, he's literally going to set up his bench here. As you can see, he's just setting the stake up into the tool post, tightening everything down, make sure it's nice and firm. And then obviously, because of your depth of your vase, we have to obviously use a longer stake to support it. There we go, that's That's the vase all nicely completed for you. As you can see, your sponsor's mark, a name mark in the middle there, your MH, Britannia mark, the 958 for the Britannia Molesable Finest, Leopard's Head for London, that's the office of course, and this year's date letter. So there we go, nicely finished. Ready to go, back to the workshop.
So the process of hallmarking has been going on here at Goldsmiths Hall for 700 years. Now that this vase has been hallmarked, I can take it home, finish it and gild it and send it off to the customer.
For me, the greatest pleasure of my job is to work with young people. And so to see Miriam at 23 creating this masterpiece is a joy. She has the same skills as the Elizabethan silversmith that made the Bowes cup. She uses the technique of repoussé chasing, as you see here. By using wooden formers, she raises the silver from the inside and then creates these amazing patterns. She's inspired by water and its flow, and this piece has a wonderful organic quality to it.
Nature inspires me, particularly water, ferns and fractals in leaves. I find it quite striking that wood grain is similar to the patterns in water in the kind of flowing lines. They kind of recur in nature, all these patterns, as well as in the marble tables. A lot of the patterns in the chasing I do are based on wood and water patterns. In a fern, each different leaf is actually the same shape as the whole fern leaf. So this is a kind of a fractal pattern.
For me, it's been fascinating meeting Miriam and walking around Ickworth with her, because what she's inspired by at Ickworth is perhaps different from what you might think she'd be inspired by. Ickworth is a classical building full of amazing works of art and items of furniture, but Miriam's seen beyond that and has found all kinds of patterns and textures here that really inspire her. So I'm really looking forward to seeing how she's going to bring that out in her work. I know it's going to be a tumbler. I don't know exactly what it's going to look like, but obviously it will be inspired by the things she's seen at Ickworth. I've seen other examples of Miriam's work and it is really beautiful, and the level of detail that she goes into is astonishing. So I know that whoever wins this tumbler is going to be extremely pleased with it.
I'm really honoured to have been chosen for this role as an ambassador of the Studio Silver Today scheme, because it will really allow me to share my skills with people who are genuinely interested in the craft of silversmithing.
There's this great delight of being able to enjoy the surprise of seeing a young, confident artist at work in a workshop situation and learning about this marvellous skill and artistry that is at the heart of the British tradition of silversmithing today.